Okay, so let's get started then. So just to introduce myself, my name's Luke and I'm a Senior Finance and Client Relationships Associate here at Arthur. You might have met me before on the live chat or in tutorials. I might have even done an integration for you. So today we're going to be talking and showcasing Arthur's live bank feed. So a copyright notice there. Yeah, so on the agenda for today, I'm going to introduce you to the live bank feed. I'm going to showcase you some of its features and show what it can do for you. I'm also going to obviously be using the live bank feed. I'll show you what reports we're developing at the moment for the live bank feed. And then also going to look into the pricing for that as well. And we've got a couple of offers too. So without further ado. Yeah. So Arthur's live bank feed is essentially a in Arthur connection to your own bank account. So what it does essentially is it inputs all of your live bank feed transactions, and then it allows you to reconcile those against real life, maybe tenant invoices and contractor invoices. So as you may know, there's generally 3 ways in Arthur where you can sort of reconcile rents. So the first way is to manually pay off charges in Arthur. The second way is to integrate with Xero and to reconcile within Xero with the live bank feed there. And the third method is to actually have your live bank feed within Arthur and to use our live bank feed. So the benefits of using our live bank feed is, well, comparing it to Xero, there's no sync. So there's no waiting around for, say, reconciliation and syncs and things like that. Once you reconcile, it's instantaneous. And then also the benefit compared to just manually paying off charges, as some of you may do, it's just a lot quicker, and you're going to be able to see that in the few examples that I'm going to show you. So the next thing to address is who should use our live bank feed. So our live bank feed is sort of tailored towards letting agents and property managers who have a client account. So the idea is to put your client account into Arthur and then to deal with all of your client account transactions there within Arthur. And then you could have a separate accounting software with your business or your office account in and just have your management fees and things like that. So that is the target for the bank feed, really. However, we're not limiting it. Anyone can still use the bank feed, but as long as you just want to use our bank feed for just standard rent tracking and things like that, keeping on top of who's paid and contractor payments and things like that. The reason we say that is that Arthur is not an accounting tool. We've not got in-depth financial reporting. So if you're a landlord and you want financial reports, or maybe you've got a guaranteed rent set up and you want financial reports, that's not what our live bank feed offers. It's mainly made for just having your client account in Arthur so you can reconcile the rents, or just basic rent tracking, just an efficient way of tracking your rents. So the banks that we can connect to are shown on screen now. So we've got all the major banks really. So the first 9 are the CMA 9 and then Monzo plus Handelsbanken as well. That means if you can't see your bank on this list, then unfortunately, we're not going to be able to accommodate you on our live bank feed. That's not to say that we wouldn't be able to add them in future, but for the time being, this is all we can integrate to our live bank feed. A common one as well that we don't integrate with is Metro Bank. So unfortunately, if you're on Metro Bank, then we're not able to accommodate that. So now I actually want to show you our live bank feed in the flesh. So I've set up a few examples. So I've got a blank Arthur here with just a few new tenancies on. And just to showcase the tenancy as it is, let me search. So I've got a tenancy set up for the tenant Stephen James. I have a recurring charge set up, but that's gone off now. But we've got a 10% management fee charge. And then we've just got a standard rent charge, and that is unreconciled. It's overdue. In addition to that, I've got a deposit of £700 that is overdue. So in order to sort of reconcile that with our live bank feed, you'll do the following. So to find the live bank feed, I go to the financials dashboard. And then in the bottom right-hand corner of the screen, I've got bank accounts. So here I've got my 3 different bank accounts. So the only one I want to connect to my actual live feed would be my client account. Like I say, the business account doesn't really work because we've not got the financial reports and things like that. I mean, you can put it in, but we've not got the financial reports to sort of analyze or report on your business and office accounts. So if I click into my HSBC client account here, I'm going to click Start Reconciliation. And this is essentially it. Now, if you have used Xero before, you might realize that it's quite similar. So what you have is on the left-hand side of the screen, you've got your real life bank transactions. They're going to automatically flow through to Arthur. So they update every hour. It varies from bank to bank how long it takes the bank to communicate with our bank feed anyway. So it could be 24 hours, but it could be 1 hour essentially. But that will automatically scan through. In this scenario, I have imported these because I've not connected my bank, but it'd work just the same. So on the left-hand side of the screen are my real life payments and payments in and payments out as well. Now, what you can see Arthur's done here, it's automatically matching that against certain invoices that are on the system. So we can see the payee on the top left is Stephen James, and it's matching that to the correct invoice for Stephen James as well. So all I need to do is come into the screen, give it a quick eyeball, and then once I'm happy with that, I can click match. And then we've got exactly the same here for a rent. So Stephen James has paid in £600. I'm going to click into other reconcile options here because there may be other tenants' invoices on the system as well. So if I click other reconcile options, I've got sort of 5 reconciliation options here. Now, if I just want to look at every sort of tenant invoice that's on the account and is unreconciled, I can click search transaction here. And then I'm able to use the search function and use all sorts of filters to select the actual appropriate transaction. But I know this is Stephen James's rent, so I'm going to click that here. And again, it's as simple as selecting it and just clicking match. So once I've done that, you can see in the top right corner, match success. And if I go to Stephen James's tenancy now, give it a refresh, oh, there you go. So that's it, that pays off the charges. So for rent tracking, it's great. It's much more efficient than what people might do with clicking the drop down arrow and clicking pay off charge as well. So nice and straightforward. I'm actually going to go on to process this now because as we've received that rent at the moment, we have £440 payable to the owner. So if I run and do a quick remittance as well, I'm sure a few of you will be familiar with this process. So as you normally do, just continue through with the remittance. Select which bank account is relevant. And then I'm going to select the date I paid this out, which was last year. So you still do the remittance as normal. And then if I make my way back to our live bank feed, so the second transaction down, I had a payment out of my bank for £440. That was grey before, but now I've done that remittance. Arthur has automatically matched that. So that's sort of the process of receiving a rent and then paying the landlord and then matching the actual remittance to the payment to the landlord. So I'm actually just going to quickly undo that remittance now. So as well, if you ever make mistakes or reconcile to the wrong transaction, there's a couple of places you can do this, but if I go to the tenant statement and I know that I've incorrectly allocated that, I'm going to go into here and I can click the drop down arrow and click undo reconciliation. So whereas with zero, where a lot of the time you'd have to wait for a sync to correct things, with Arthur's live bank feed, obviously that's instantaneous and that's a big advantage. So some of you may have scenarios where a lot of the tenants pay the same amount. So Arthur will need to differentiate from that. So the way you can do that, if you have the tenant put their own TE reference number in their reference when they send the payment, then Arthur will know to match it to that invoice, that tenancy first. So if you have 10 invoices, it's always going to prioritize the one with this tenancy. So that's just what I wanted to undo and showcase there. So just reading a question in the chat now. So Sarah's asked, I have real trouble with reconciling deposits that we receive through our bank and then move to the DPS. It's when we return to his deposit. How do we go about that? So for actual support, if you're already using the live bank feed, I'd probably suggest going onto our live chat for or booking in a tutorial for support. So this session's more show to showcase like a top level view, but as well. So if I just go back to my bank account screen, essentially how it works, if you do have the DPS or if you register your deposits with the DPS or a custodial scheme, we actually add a sort of control bank to Arthur called DPS control. And so when you're sending off money to the DPS, you can reconcile that as sort of a bank transfer to that DPS control account. And then you'd also have a constant balance of how much money is with the DPS at any given time. So that's how you deal with that. But yes, so brilliant. And then the next question was, how do we sign up and how much does it cost to use? After I've done showing a few examples, I'm going to go into the pricing as well and also the offers that we have available. So to go back to the reconciliation. Now, in addition to money incoming from tenants, obviously you're going to have to pay contractors and things like that as well, and that'll feed through your bank feed. So I've already added a transaction to my system Billy the contractor has charged me £90 for bathroom tiling. I've paid that out. And then, so the spent items now appeared on my bank feed, £90 spent. And then just the same as you saw before, it's gonna suggest the right match, and I can just match that up. Get rid of that remittance for now. So another question, how do we allocate payments to landlords with multiple properties? I mean, it's just sort of the same process. You'd come into the remittance screen, as you might have seen before. And I've got this as remittance type as unit, but if you had the remittance type as entity, you'd have all the different properties under one umbrella. You then do one remittance, then you have a bulk payment. You pay the money out your bank, and when that comes into the bank feed, you reconcile that as well. So it's just the same process again. So if I just finish up and complete that remittance again, I know I just undid it, but so I can show you the transferable income too. Put today's date. So what you may do as well, you may or may not use the transferable income screen, but that can be really handy if you're a letting agent as well. So my Arthur's now telling me I've got £70 transferable income, which is sitting in my client account. So I'm going to click into that figure there. So that's the management fee that I need to transfer to my business or office account. I'm just going to transfer the 60 on its own for now, but you can do this in bulk. That's the sort of idea generally. So if I click, and this screen won't be relevant to you if you're a landlord or guaranteed rent or that sort of setup, but if you're a letting agent, this is for transferring the money from client to business account. So you could batch these up. I'm just going to do it in one for now. And then I'm selecting the bank that I'm going to transfer that to. Going to click confirm. And then again, what I'll do in real life, I'll make that payment of £60. That £60 transfer transaction is going to now appear, obviously, in my bank statements. So I'm going to have to deal with that. If I click start reconciliation, again, going into my bank feed. So again, this is as though my bank's updated and I've got that spent item. So this left-hand side is always from my bank statements. The right-hand side of the screen is an Arthur transaction that I can match that to. If I click other reconciliation options, I can search bank transfer to look at all the sort of bank transfers I've made. I've got one today, 30th of March. So that's it. So we can cover a lot of different things. So obviously your tenant transactions, your bank transfers too. So another question in, when do we use the add transaction? So say, for example, I had a blank tenancy and I've forgotten to add the rental invoice on there. This is just going to add a transaction straight here rather than having to go back to the statement and then adding it there. I can just add one straight away here. So click add transaction. I can search what tenants it's relevant to. Select the tenancy. I can say that's admin fee. And then you fill in the details here. It adds a transaction and pays it off immediately. So that's the use of that, just in case you've done it late. So yeah, add transaction, and then I'm going to come to assign to an internal transfer later. So the transaction I have here is a rent contribution from Finn. So this is actually going to showcase a rent part payment. So you can see Arthur's not suggested anything because it can't find a match for £450. In that case, I'm going to have to click into here and click search transaction. And I can see my, the description says it's from Finn. And the only invoice I've got left on my system is this. So all I need to do is select the transaction, type in £450. And there you go. So that's how you handle a rent part payment as well. So in terms of my client account, that's me fully reconciled at the moment. Did just get another question through. Okay, so Laura has asked me, how can I allocate a payment to a specific invoice if I've had to match the payment by adding a transaction? Occasionally, tenant payments come in before the invoice is due, and so it doesn't appear on the search option. Okay, so I'm gonna go and set up an example for that now, so I can hopefully help answer that question. So I've gone into the bank statement screen, and this is another place where I can actually unreconcile those payments. So let me just get this one here. View reconciliation, undo reconciliation. So if the tenant pays before the rent is due, you sort of have two options. You can either go to the recurring charge directly on the tenancy and have it set to trigger days in advance, like with a certain days in advance. So for example, you can get it so if it's due on the 1st, you can have it appear on the statement a week before, which would allow you to reconcile sooner than that if your tenant pays regularly before the actual due date. So that's one option. Another option would be clicking the add transaction option here and adding the rent as a tenancy receipt. So if I reconciled this rent now as a tenancy receipt, that would go onto the tenant statement. And when the actual invoice was raised or was created on Arthur, I would then go in and I could allocate that as well. So there's a couple of different options there. So I will be taking more questions at the end as well. So that's what you do. You'd add a tenancy receipt and allocate it at a later stage. So the last bit of functionality for the bank feed that I wanted to show as well was if I go to bank accounts. Now, I didn't actually want to connect my business account, but for the sake of showing you the assign to function I have, added a transaction there. So the last sort of bit of functionality is the assign to function. So if you're self-managing landlord or if you own the properties yourself, and you wanted to use the bank feed, you'd probably have a lot of non-property related transactions as well. So what you would do with those is there's not going to be like an Arthur invoice for you to reconcile that with in theory. So what you would do, you would click assign to, then you can go income, expense, asset or liabilities. And if I just go expense, search the payee name. So you can either add a new contact or if it exists on the system, select it. You can customize your transaction types here, but I'm going to go miscellaneous expenses, no VAT. So this is just a quick way of sort of getting rid of things essentially. This won't create an invoice in Arthur. It's not going to feed back into any statements. It's just a way of reconciling it, and Arthur knows that that's sort of gone to expenses as well. So this function, like I say, it's more so if there's anything that's not relating to your Arthur statements, nothing to do with tenants or contractors, miscellaneous costs, miscellaneous income, that sort of thing. But in theory, if you wouldn't need this for your client account in theory. Yeah, so that gives a pretty top level overview of the functionality of the live bank feed. Another question just come through: how many banks can be connected? You can under one sort of Arthur account, you can have unlimited banks here. Although we only really recommend putting your client accounts in, client and deposit accounts if you have a deposit account. But if you've got a setup where you've got a few different businesses, you could actually put it all in here if you really wanted. And you wouldn't have to pay extra per bank. You pay one subscription for the bank feed for one Arthur account. So I've not actually gone through the process of connecting the live bank feed. It's fairly straightforward. All you need to do is connect to your online banking essentially and give it access. I can send in links because we've got knowledge base articles showing you how you can connect your live bank feed. And I'll talk about this later in the when we're talking about the pricing. So as well, this session will be recorded, by the way. So if you've missed any parts or you want to return to it, then I believe it's going to be on our YouTube channel. So you'll be able to watch it there as well. So with the live bank feed, we've got two big reports that we're working on at the moment as well. Both of them as well are going to be for the sort of letting agent setup. So the first report would be the bank reconciliation report. So what that does, it looks at your bank balance versus your cash book in Arthur, and it notes the differences. So if there's differences, that means there's going to be money left over in your client account. So the idea of that report is to identify where there might be money left over. I don't know, where you might have forgot to transfer yourself a fee, or maybe there's a balance due to not sending the money to a contractor or things like that. So that one would be a useful one. Another report that we're working on at the moment is the exports of management fees for Xero and QuickBooks. So what that would do, it's going to be in a format that you can upload a CSV to your Xero or QuickBooks account, where it'll create invoices for your management fees, so you can reconcile it that way. For non-Xero and QuickBooks users, we're going to have a generic template for that as well, which you'll be able to edit yourself and put into your own accounting softwares. But for a start anyway, we're just doing the Xero and QuickBooks, so you can raise yourself invoices for those management fees. Just seen a quick question there. Is it incorrect to use add transaction for the property owner remittance? That is the incorrect process. If you want further clarification, I would recommend either emailing the support email, booking in a tutorial, or asking on the live chat. If rents are paid into different client accounts, will Arthur recognize this? Yes, so if you have an invoice in Arthur can be actually reconciled with any sort of bank account. It's not going to be limited to the one bank account. So, but the payments will just come from one, if that makes sense. But yeah, so one invoice. If a tenant paid into the incorrect account, you could still reconcile it in the incorrect account, or you could reconcile it in the main account. It doesn't really matter. Also, another thing to mention is if you did transfer yourself income as well, you can use the internal transfer button on the end. So it's similar to the search bank transfer option. So I mentioned before, we've got a couple of those reports for the letting agents. I just wanted to reiterate that our system isn't designed for the accounting and things like that. So if you're self-managing landlord or guaranteed rent and you want a lot of financial reports, that's not what our bank feed's for. It's essentially a rent tracking tool, just to keep on top of that. And you can see here all my tenant invoices, that's gone down significantly. And it's a lot easier than the manual reconciliation that we've gone through before. So if I get my PowerPoint back up, hoping you can still see my screen. Moving on to the pricing for the live bank feed. So our live bank feed is currently priced at $12.99 plus VAT per month. So that is an ongoing cost. You can access that in the Arthur store. So someone asked the question before saying they couldn't find it in the Arthur store. I'm not too sure why that isn't. So I'll actually go back into Arthur actually and show you that in a second. But so yeah, the subscription is $12.99 plus VAT per month. We also offer startup packages because although it's relatively easy to connect it to your bank, there is a degree of training and things that you should know ahead of using the bank feed, and also things like setting up your DPS and things like that. So we have these 3 startup packages, all varying in essentially support. Basic package is the cheapest, which is just 2 setup calls. The plus package, 2 setup calls, and then 3 training tutorials as well. And then the complete, which is just the plus a training day, just to bundle that up and make it a bit more cost effective. And we are offering a 50% discount on all those 3 startup packages as well for the bank feed to get you kick-started as well. As well, if you're interested in just a 1-week free trial of the bank feed, then please send me an email and we can enable that on your account just so you can have a play around and see if it's for you. So that's my email if anyone wants to note that down. You can see it again on the last screen, but just send over an email if you want to get that free trial for the bank feed, or if you have any more in-depth questions about the bank feed that I didn't quite cover today. So in order to subscribe to the bank feed, you would go to the Arthur store, and then it should be right at the top here, Arthur Live Bank Feed. However, if you want that week free trial, don't do that. Just send me the email instead. Okay, so there's your pricing. Then perfect. So that pretty much covers everything on a top level view of our of our Alpha Live bank feed. I hope you found it informative. If you have any questions, please pop them in the box now, and I'll just start to answer them. So Irish bank accounts can't be linked. So I think certain Irish bank accounts can. So it depends. So these are the banks that are supported. So if the Irish banks are owned by, say, for example, the bigger banks, then you would be able to link them to the live bank feed. Again, if you wanna let me know specifically, if you want to email me with the name of your bank, I can find out for you and get back to you if that specific bank is or is not included. So going back, the 50% discount has not been applied. So this is full pricing at the moment. Sorry if that wasn't clearer. So the basic package would be £75 plus VAT to get you started on the live bank feed. So Susanna's asked, self-managing landlord, our rents go to income. Does that mean the bank feed would not work for us? No, the bank feed would absolutely work for you. It's just that the main thing is you're using it for rent tracking rather than, we just don't want to give the expectation that it's an accounting software, because it's not. It's just basically rent tracking and reconciliation. It absolutely would work for you, and it's great for rent tracking. But it's not going to be able to pull off in-depth profit and loss reports and things like that, if that's what you're after, basically. Maybe one day, but not at the moment. So if I'm not using Xero for reconciliation, etc., would the monthly Xero fee be reduced? I don't believe so. I must make this clear as well. This is instead of Xero as well. So you either choose to connect Alpha to Xero or to the live bank feed. You can't really connect it to both. If that's in terms of, if you're a letting agent, would the Xero fee be reduced? I guess the Xero fees come in 3 packages. I imagine you'd be on the standard package, and the starter package is very limited. So therefore, I doubt that your monthly Xero fee would be reduced unless you wanted to, unless the starter package could do that for you. Okay, so I'm just going to wait a couple more minutes for any more questions. Look, like there's any more questions. So I hope you all found it useful, guys. Thanks for joining today. Like I say, my email's there. So if you have any further questions on the live bank feed, just let me know. And also email me if you want that free trial too. I'll also, this will be uploaded to YouTube as well. So if you need to revisit things, then you can do. Perfect, guys. So I think I'll end the recording there. Thanks for joining today. Cheers.